Sunday, October 29. Our excuses, fear. Read Nahum chapter 1, verse 1, chapter 3, verses 1 to 4, 2 Kings 17, verses 5 to 6, and chapter 19, verses 32 to 37. What do these verses reveal about Nineveh and the relationship between Assyria and Israel? How might this relationship have impacted Jonah's decision to go to Tarshish instead? First of all, Nahum, verse 1. The burden against Nahum, the book of the vision of Nahum the Elkoshite. And Nahum chapter 3, verses 1 to 4. Woe to the bloody city! It is all full of lies and robbery. Its victim never departs. The noise of a whip and the noise of rattling wheels, of galloping horses, of clattering chariots. Horsemen charge with bright sword and glittering spear. There is a multitude of slain, a great number of bodies, countless corpses. They stumble over the corpses because of the multitude of harlotries of the seductive harlot, the mistress of sorceries, who sells nations through her harlotries and families through her sorceries. And then we look at 2 Kings 17, verses 5 and 6. Now the king of Assyria went throughout all the land and went up to Samaria and besieged it for 3 years. In the 9th year of Hoshea, the king of Assyria took Samaria and carried Israel away to Assyria and placed them in Halah and by the harbour, the river of Gozan, and in the cities of the Medes. And 2 Kings 19, verses 32 to 37. Therefore thus says the Lord concerning the king of Assyria, he shall not come into this city, nor shoot an arrow there, nor come before it with shield, nor build a siege mound against it. By the way that he came, by the same shall he return, and he shall not come into this city, says the Lord. For I will defend this city to save it, for my own sake and for my servant David's sake. And it came to pass on a certain night that the angel of the Lord went out and killed in the camp of the Assyrians 185,000. And when people arose early in the morning, there were the corpses all dead. So Sennacherib, king of Assyria, departed and went away, returned home, and remained at Nineveh. Now it came to pass, as he was worshipping in the temple of Nisroch, his god, that his sons Adramelech and Shazazer struck him down with the sword, and they escaped into the land of Ararat. Then Esarhaddon, his son, reigned in his place. One of the reasons Jonah may have been unwilling to go to Nineveh was fear. The Assyrians were a formidable foe, and Nineveh served as the capital of the kingdom. In Prophets and Kings, page 265, we read, among the cities of the ancient world, in the days of divided Israel, one of the greatest was Nineveh, the capital of the Assyrian realm. In the time of its temporal prosperity, Nineveh was a centre of crime and wickedness. Inspiration has characterized it as the bloody city, full of lies and robbery. In figurative language, the prophet Nahum compared the Ninevites to a cruel, ravenous lion, upon whom, he inquired, hath not thy wickedness passed continually? Nahum 3, verses 1 and 19. End of quote. Nineveh was a magnificent city. Historians tell us that Sennacherib greatly expanded the city, including building the huge southwestern palace that alone measured 1,650 feet by 794 feet. That's 503 by 242 metres, and contained at least 80 rooms. He also built 18 canals to bring water to the city from as far away as 40 miles or 65 kilometres. Its size alone would have been intimidating. But the Assyrians were also ruthless. In his account of the conquest of Babylon, Sennacherib boasted that he filled the streets with the corpses of its inhabitants, young and old, and relief carvings found during excavations depict scenes of soldiers impaling victims. These were not people you wanted to cross. They were not averse to using violence and gratuitous cruelty, too, against those they didn't like. Indeed, at the thought of walking among the masses of people in Nineveh, Jonah must have quaked with fear. In spite of all of this, we often read Jonah's story with disapproval for letting fear get in the way of carrying out God's instructions. What we fail to realize is that we can do the same thing. That is, allow ourselves to be controlled by our fears rather than by God. And so to finish today, think back to a time when you felt strongly that God was directing you to do something that you, out of fear, really didn't want to do. What lessons have you learned from that experience? You have been listening to a reading of the Adult Sabbath School lessons by Dr. Percy Harold and the inside story by his niece Sibylla. Apart from being provided free to those who are visually impaired, these audio lessons are available on the official General Conference Sabbath School and Personal Ministry app, on SoundCloud, Apple iTunes, and also on YouTube. Search for Percy Harold Sabbath to find all of these. And remembering all the time that God is always faithful.